All right, today we're doing a deep dive into one of Islam's most central concepts, Tawhid, the absolute, indivisible oneness of God. And we're going to be using a really detailed scholarly analysis of Surah Maryam to guide us. What's amazing is how this text not only defines the concept, but also uses it to solve a pretty profound theological paradox. So let's get right into it. So here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the absolute foundation, what Tawhid really is. Then we'll trace how that belief was protected through the lineage of Abraham. After that, we'll look at the active struggle it requires. And then, this is the really interesting part, we'll dive into a core theological paradox before unpacking the text's brilliant resolution. Okay, first things first. We have to establish the bedrock of this entire discussion. The concept that underpins literally everything else we're about to explore is known as Tawhid. Now, as you can see, this isn't just about believing in one God. The source is very specific here. It defines it as God's absolute, indivisible oneness. It's a pure, uncompromising monotheism. And that's not just about a number, the number one. It's a massive statement about the fundamental nature of reality itself and the only legitimate focus of worship. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The source text breaks Tawhid down into this powerful two-part process. It's not just one single statement. First, you have the negation, la ilaha, which is a total, complete rejection of all false gods, of anything and everything people might worship. You're basically clearing the slate, intellectually and spiritually. And only after that negation do you get the affirmation, illa Allah, asserting the one true God as the singular object of your devotion. It implies that true faith isn't just about what you believe, it's also about what you refuse to believe. And here we see this concept in action, perfectly illustrated. The source uses the prophet Abraham as the primary, living example of this two-step process. See, he didn't just quietly believe in one God in private. The whole narrative emphasizes his active, very public confrontation and rejection of the idol worship that was all around him, that defined his entire society. Okay, so Abraham establishes the principle. But, and the source text really hammers this home, this wasn't just a one-and-done deal. Let's take a look at how this foundational belief was deliberately preserved and passed down through a very specific, blessed lineage. The text points to this incredibly clear line of succession, and it frames it as a deliberate divine act. After Abraham makes his powerful stand, God gifts him with Isaac and then Jacob. The analysis points out how important that word gift is. This wasn't some accident of history, it was a divine endowment specifically to establish prophethood within his descendants, to make sure that torch of pure monotheism was carried forward. And this is where the analysis feels less like a commentary and more like a forensic audit of the narrative. It's really meticulous, it doesn't just list the prophets, it carefully analyzes the specific sequence of the names, the language used to describe the divine favor they received. It's building a case, step by step, that this lineage was a divinely architected structure, all for the preservation of this one core theological principle. So, and this is absolutely crucial, this inherited mantle of monotheism, it wasn't some passive title you just get to have. The text argues it was a deep conviction that demanded real, tangible action. And critically, it demanded a very difficult separation from the culture around them. This quote, which the text highlights, is everything. Abraham's declaration isn't a suggestion, it's a clean break. And notice the two distinct parts. He withdraws from his people, and he withdraws from what they worship. The source really emphasizes this act of separation as being absolutely necessary to preserve a pure, unadulterated monotheism. It's a model for how to maintain your spiritual and ideological integrity. Okay, so now we get to what is, for me, the most complex and fascinating theological puzzle that the source text just tackles head-on. This is where the analysis goes to a whole new level. I mean, this raises a really profound question, right? If the absolute core of Tawhid is a belief in a God who is infinite, transcendent, totally beyond physical location, then how in the world do you make sense of passages in sacred texts that seem to place him in a specific, finite spot? It feels like a massive contradiction. And to crack this very problem, the exegesis zeroes in on a famous, powerful example. The story of God calling to Moses from the right side of Mount Sinai. You have to ask, why the right side? Why a mountain at all, if God is everywhere? This specific case study is the key the author uses to unlock the whole thing. So, how does the author solve this apparent paradox? Well, it's actually incredibly elegant. It all comes down to introducing a crucial distinction between two totally different kinds of closeness to the divine. This slide right here is the key to the entire argument. The source makes a sharp distinction between, on the one hand, physical proximity, closeness in feet and miles, something you can measure. It's limited, and it's just not applicable to an infinite God. But on the other hand, there's spiritual proximity. This has nothing to do with location. It's about nearness in rank, in honor and status. It's a conceptual closeness, not a geographical one. And the author argues this isn't just some clever workaround. It's essential to avoid limiting God to physical, human-like attributes. So the crucial takeaway is this. When the text says God called to Moses from Mount Sinai, it was never about putting God on a map. According to this analysis, it was about signifying the immense honor and the elevated spiritual rank being bestowed upon Moses. The location itself became sacred because it was the stage for this unique event. It's all about Moses' high status, not God's physical address. It's about significance, not location.
And that leaves us with a final, really powerful thought to chew on. If we apply this distinction, how does it completely reshape the way we read these texts? When we come across a divine presence in a specific place, are we being pointed to a physical spot on a map? Or are we being asked to recognize a moment of profound spiritual honor, a moment of incredible purpose?